What if the Great Wall of China was built to keep out creatures from another world? Stop for a moment and truly gaze at that colossal, serpentine structure, winding its way across the rugged spine of ancient China. It is the single largest man-made creation on this planet, an epic scar stretching over 13,000 miles. For centuries, we have been taught a simple, logical truth. It was a defense against nomadic tribes, against human invaders from the north. But I want you to discard that comfortable narrative, because it might be the greatest lie our civilization has ever accepted. What if the true enemy was not flesh and blood? What if the Great Wall wasn't just a barrier of stone, but a cosmic seal, erected not against the Mongols, but against things that crawled from the space between stars? The sheer, almost desperate scale of the construction's number of lives sacrificed, the resources poured into this single, monolithic project for over 2 millennia screams of a threat far more existential than any earthly empire. It hints at a hidden, terrifying truth that has been buried for thousands of years. A secret so immense that if it were revealed, it would rewrite the entire history of humanity. For centuries, mankind has gazed upon the wall, admiring the sheer tenacity of our ancestors. But have we ever stopped to truly question the urgency of it all? Why, in an era of rudimentary tools and constant famine, did multiple dynasties commit to such an absurdly impossible task? A commitment that spanned the rise and fall of empires? The traditional answer feels hollow when you look at the scale. The nomadic tribes, while formidable, were never a unified threat requiring a continuous, colossal fortification of this magnitude. Many segments of the wall are built across peaks, impossible to patrol or supply, serving almost no human military purpose, yet they follow the geographic contours of a precise, hidden pattern. This is where the historical oddity begins to intertwine with the truly uncanny. Ancient Chinese texts, often dismissed as mere myth or folklore, speak of the Taoidi, monstrous entities with insatiable appetites, and the king pale, ethereal beings that descended from the celestial north during periods of great cosmic alignment. Even the very choice of building materials and the foundational lore of the wall point to something deeper. Early construction used packed earth and specific types of granite, materials chosen not just for strength, but, as some obscure Taoist texts hint, for their resonant, spiritual properties. Prepares believed to repel certain forms of ethereal intrusion. The wall, in this light, was not just a fortress, it was a vast, geomantic ward, a continuous line of anti-magic, a spiritual breakwater meant to prevent a catastrophic dimensional bleed. Consider the legends surrounding the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, the man who standardized and truly began the wall's colossal expansion. His obsession wasn't merely with unified China, but with immortality and with securing the secrets of the cosmos. He dispatched expeditions to find the Isles of the Immortal Citadel, often seen as a search for an elixir, but perhaps a quest to find the source of the very creatures he was attempting to lock out. The official historical record tells us the threat was the Xiongnu. The deeper, hidden history might be that the Xiongnu were merely the first human victims of the true invasion. Fleeing something far worse, or worse yet, they were the unwitting vanguard, tainted and driven mad by the entities seeping through a fragile dimensional membrane. In the far north, our hypothetical threat, these creatures from another world, likely operate on a completely different set of physical laws. Let's approach this from multiple, interweaving perspectives. From a purely biological, xenological perspective, the threat would have been non-Euclidean or psychically resonant. Imagine a species not constrained by the 3 dimensions we inhabit, perhaps utilizing a higher dimensional geometry that allows them to fold space and appear from nowhere, or a species that exists only as sentient, malevolent energy. The sheer height and depth of the wall would serve as a massive energetic anchor, disrupting the local dimensional stability to prevent their easy transition. The numerous watchtowers, often positioned on ley lines, wouldn't have housed archers, but ancient, complex, resonating artifacts, perhaps specialized bronze mirrors, or jade mattress acting as localized psychic dampeners to ward off mental intrusion and stabilize the boundary. The labor force's constant interaction with the geomantically charged stone could have been a massive, collective ritual, constantly reinforcing the psychic seal through sheer human willpower and sacrifice, a grim, necessary cost. From a cosmic, extraterrestrial viewpoint, the North, the traditional direction of the threat, is also the direction of Polaris, the North Star, a fixed celestial point often associated in ancient lore with the throne of a great cosmic emperor, or, conversely, a massive celestial gateway. The wall, in this context, wasn't just built across China. It was deliberately positioned to align with specific terrestrial and astronomical markers, creating a giant, terrestrial circuit breaker. The creatures may not have come from a distant planet, but from a nearby, unseen dimension, a pocket of reality that occasionally brushes against ours. The periods of intense wall construction often coincided with rare, significant astronomical events. Commentary visits supernovas observed by ancient Chinese astronomers. These events, dismissed by modern science as coincidences, may have been the very moments when the veil thinned, and the emperors knew they had to redouble their efforts to reinforce the barrier. The invaders were simply trying to return home, but home was an unstable, horrifying void on the other side of reality, and the wall was the lock. Now, let's look at this through the lens of esoteric technology and ancient mechanism. What if the Great Wall is not a military barrier at all, but a massive, continuous, linear energy generator? The specific orientation, the placement of the gates and fortifications may create a slow, steady electromagnetic or scalar wave. The mortar used in the Ming Dynasty's incredible reconstruction, which included glutinous rice, could have served as a binder for a more subtle, energy-conducting material that has long since decayed or become integrated into the stone. The purpose? To generate a continuous, low-frequency sonic or vibratory field, a form of sound all that interferes with the vibrational frequency of the extradimensional entities, causing them pain, disorientation, or even preventing their physical manifestation in our reality. The legendary, constant patrols weren't just for surveillance. They were to ensure the circuit remained unbroken, to perform the maintenance of the massive, hidden machine, to keep the ancient technology humming. This theory ties in with the almost fanatical focus on maintenance across dynasties that had no other contact with each ethera hidden, inherited duty passed down from emperor to emperor, a terrifying secret kept within the forbidden city. Keep the circuit alive or the world ends. The effect of this colossal project on our world is staggering and far-reaching. In terms of society, technology, and civilization, the very existence of the Great Wall, as a cosmic seal, would explain the cyclical nature of Chinese civilization, its brilliant advancements, and its sudden, inexplicable periods of decline. The continuous, multi-millennial effort would have drained an unimaginable amount of human ingenuity and resource away from other forms of societal progress. Imagine the technological and philosophical leaps China could have made without the constant, secret pressure of maintaining the dimensional dam. Their advanced knowledge of astronomy, magnetism, and mathematics may not have been purely for navigation or calendar keeping, but for the precise, complex calculations needed to maintain the wall's esoteric function. The rigid, highly centralized political structure of the Chinese Empire, often seen as a cultural phenomenon, might have actually been a necessary political framework designed to mobilize the vast, disciplined workforce required to keep the secret and the barrier intact. The constant threat of the creatures, the things beyond the wall, would have been the ultimate boogeyman, the one unifying, terrifying factor that kept the disparate kingdoms and dynasties focused on a single, shared, apocalyptic goal. This constant, subliminal pressure would create a society hyper-focused on order, stability, and defense, which is exactly what we see in historical China. The impact on nature, climate, and geology would be equally profound. A 13,000-mile geomantic ward would have had a massive, stabilizing effect on the very crust of the Earth. The constant, low-level energy field might have inadvertently caused shifts in weather patterns, diverting the jet stream or altering rainfall to create the very desert regions in the north we associate with the wall's surroundings, effectively creating a natural buffer zone against the ingress points. Furthermore, if the entities were truly non-Euclidean. Their attempts to force a physical breach might have caused localized geological instability, earthquakes, and strange magnetic anomalies along the wall's path, often attributed to natural causes, could actually be the residual effects of a dimensional membrane under extreme stress, with the ancient builders placing the wall where the crust was most susceptible to tearing. The very ecosystem of northern China would be a highly modified, protected zone, shielded from the subtle, corrupting influence of the extra-dimensional radiation that the entities might emit. Finally, the effect on loosening our grip on reality and the cosmos is the most chilling. If the wall is indeed a seal, what happens when it eventually fails? The creatures are not gone, they are merely held back. Their existence would validate every single creation myth, every tale of ancient gods and demons, not as metaphors, but as historical accounts of the first, forgotten war. It would force a complete, catastrophic reevaluation of human biology. Are we truly native to this planet, or did some primordial genetic engineering grant us immunity to the entity's influence, an immunity that is now fading? Modern physics and cosmology would be instantly obsolete, replaced by a terrifying new science focused on dimensional dynamics and energetic barriers. Our place in the cosmos shifts from being curious explorers to being inmates in a fragile, walled-off sanctuary guarded by the silent, colossal sacrifice of countless generations of Chinese builders. The political and religious structures of the modern world would fracture overnight. Every religion would have to confront the reality of malevolent cosmic beings far beyond the scope of their theology. Political powers would scramble not for oil or land, but for the ancient, lost knowledge of how to maintain the wall, a horrifying, ultimate geopolitical secret. We now reach the terrible culmination of this narrative. Imagine the day a deep penetrating radar surveys a simple scientific endeavor discourse that the foundational segments of the earliest wall are not natural stone, but something else entirely, a strange, biomechanical composite material that seems to be alive, generating a faint, constant harmonic vibration. And then, imagine the moment when the world's most sophisticated radio telescopes, pointed toward a seemingly innocuous star system in the north, pick up a continuous, rhythmic signal, not a message, but a pattern of energy spikes. The pattern is complex, ancient, and unmistakably a form of communication. It's not aimed at Earth. It's aimed at the Great Wall. It's the sound of something vast, inhuman, and patient, pressing against the lock. And this leads us to the final, terrifying question. If the Great Wall of China was built to keep out creatures from another world, what does the modern state of the wall, crumbling in places, riddled with tourist pathways, slowly being eroded by the very elements it was meant to defy, mean for us now? Is the wall still maintaining its esoteric function, or is the seal weakening, fading after to millennia of neglect? The Chinese dynasties that built it were not just empire builders. They were humanity's silent sentinels, and their mission may now be failing. If the Great Wall is indeed a crumbling cosmic seal, perhaps we have only just begun to touch the monstrous, cold reality of a secret so colossal that its full reveal would instantly render the entire fragile reality of human history nothing more than a momentary, pleasant illusion. And the biggest question remaining, if the wall fails and the true invaders, the things from beyond, finally return to our world, what will happen next?